Washington Journal continues.
Jeremy Singer, there were stories this week about something called space control. What is meant by that?
Space control has several different aspects of it. Some are controversial, some are not. The first aspect is knowing what's going on in space. Not a lot of people will argue that we need to know what's happening in space. For a couple of reasons. If something happens to one of the satellites that we rely on, whether it's for the U.S. military fighting in Iraq or for folks here using their ATMs, cell phones, watching television, we want to know what's happening. We want to know, is this a natural occurrence, like a solar flare, for example, or is it something more malicious that an enemy may have intentionally done? For example, the Iraqis jamming GPS in Iraq. In addition to that, there are a couple other parts. One is defending our assets and ensuring that enemy nations don't take advantage of space in the same way that we have.
So what's the government reaction to those concerns?
DoD has a number of things underway to deal with this in both of the things that we just talked about. One is keeping better tabs on objects in space, and they've got new satellite constellations under development to do that. They also have some work going on in order to ensure enemies don't take the same advantage of space that we have. Most of this is in the classified arena. The one unclassified program is something called the Counter Communication System, or COUNTERCOM, which was recently delivered to DoD last year. Last fall.
How does it work?
I don't know, because they won't tell me. Generally what it does is it would interfere with a communications satellite that an enemy used. That could be a commercial communications satellite or something owned by a government.
And so how many satellites, what kind of satellites generally are we talking about when we're talking about the government's concerns?
In terms of what we're worried about?
What they have to protect.
We've got a lot of satellites up there. The one we're probably most familiar with is GPS. I think we all take great advantage of GPS. I certainly know I couldn't get around in Washington without the GPS device in my car. But that's also crucial to the U.S. military, whether it's guiding precision weapons or just helping troops know where their friendly forces are. In Iraq, we've also got communication satellites, that we use here, commercial satellites. The military heavily relies on commercial communication satellites for about 80% of their communications in Iraq. They also have secure military satellites, a variety of other military communication satellites. They've got imagery satellites that are very important as well, also missile warning satellites. We know if someone has launched, whether it's an ICBM or some kind of short-range missile like in Iraq.
So what the DoD is developing, would it stop a satellite's capability of working, or would it destroy it altogether?
Well, they want to cover the whole waterfront here. Their focus is on temporary and reversible measures. And so they'd like to do something like this counter-comm system that I mentioned that wouldn't permanently disable a satellite. That said, they're not closing the door on destructive measures, and that's what's most controversial.
Our guest is Jeremy Singer of Space News. If you're interested in finding out more about this website, it's space.com/space news. You see it there on your television screen. Tell us a little bit about this service and who's behind making Space News happen.
We have an office here in Springfield, Virginia. We're part of a larger company called Imaginova, which also operates the space.com website. And we cover a variety of things. I mainly cover the military, but we also cover NASA and the commercial space business and also what's going on overseas.
If we want to learn more about space weapons with our guest, the number is to call 202-737-0001. If you support President Bush, 202-737-0002. If you support Democrats, 202-628-0205. If you support others. In reading the material, it said concerns about, I guess, enemies getting access of our satellites. Who are considered enemies in this case?
DoD doesn't like to talk a lot about their enemies. I think that they like to be diplomatic in this area. It could be anybody could try to interfere with our space assets, but they would probably take different